Feels good in here tonight, doesn't it? So tonight was actually originally my night to speak on loving out loud. And a little while back after we made the series, I had a friend contact me, and his name is Reverend Erik Wise. And I know Erik from way back in the day. Y'all are like, you're not even that old. How do you have a way back in the day? But like, way back in my married days, when I was married to a woman. That was a little while back. Y'all are like, psh, whatever. Queen. No joke, 6 years married, yes. But I met Erik at a funeral, of all places, down in like Bastrop or something. And it was for a mutual friend of ours. And I mean, as much as I was, in the closet, when two people are that much in the closet, you still pick up that gaydar right away. And nothing was said about it at that time. We became great friends. And then him and his wife invited my wife and I to come to Chicago, where they were living, to do a youth conference and to sing and teach at a youth conference. And was really excited about that and packed up and ready to go. And I get a phone call like the week before, and I hear that Erik is not going to be at the youth conference because Erik has been found out and he's gay and all this stuff had blown up, and it was this big scandal. And I hope I'm not telling too much. And I remember I remember this feeling of fear that gripped me, and that pit in my stomach whenever I heard his story and I heard the way people were talking about him around me, and just the shame and the disgust that came with all of it. And the way it all happened, it was just terrible. And from that day forward, it just reaffirmed ignited the fear that was inside of me of, oh my God, this is going to be me someday. And I maintained a friendship with him but from a distance, because I can't be too close to the guy who's now out and proud and all that, because I'm still in the closet. But when I came out, and I got to that point, even before I came out actually, and I just knew, you get to that point where you realize that there's no turning back, and you realize that you can't lie to the world anymore, and you can't lie to yourself anymore. And when I got to that point, I remember messaging him on Facebook, and he's like, please, Queen, I knew. But he helped walk with me through that season, and was a huge blessing in my life during that time. And then since then, over the last 4 years, he's moved off to Nigeria and now pastors a church there. And he's here tonight to testify and talk to us about what is going on in Nigeria and what exactly he is doing there. And I'm excited to hear him. And it's a pleasure having you here in my church. Come on, Erik. Everybody get it up for Bishop Erik Wise.
Thank you. I do truly count it an honor to be here tonight. It's the presence of the Lord is very strong in this place tonight. I find myself on the verge of tears. And if you have shut your emotions down to where you can't be sensitive enough to this presence of God that this praise team was singing, please stay here longer. Because the things that we're faced with and the things that we go through, how do we make it without God? How do we exist through it? When Chris and I were talking, my husband and I, this is my husband, Pastor Kelsey, sitting over here, who looks like an African, but he's not. I actually took him from Indiana over there, and they still think he's African until he opens his mouth. But something really shifts in you when you just say yes. There is a life-transforming moment when we tell God yes. But yes can't come with conditions, or things don't change. When Calvary was presented to Christ, there was not a conditional yes. It was, I will go. The same thing is true in our walk with God. It can be an easy walk. One of the great scholars said, you can kick against the pricks, you can fight it if you want to, or you can just say yes. Yes is not always the easiest thing to say when God says, good, now I've got you where I want you. Give you a little bit of background of our story. Pastored in Chicago, planted 4 churches, 2 of which are affirming, and I'm thankful for that. Was there 26 years as Chris opened up my bag of none of your business and shared it with everybody, which I don't care, it's all right. My kids are up there. I have 2 kids, both of which are part of our community, and go figure that. Tell me it's not in the blood. And I've been going back and forth to Africa, Tanzania, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Togo, Cameroon, South Africa for many years because I've always had a heart for those who couldn't do for themselves. We have that here, yes. It's all around us. But we also are here to do the work. And about 2 years ago, I was sitting in a traffic jam in Lagos, Nigeria. And as I was pastoring, God always had me teach the congregation 2 specific things. Number 1, that consistency gets God's attention. If you'll make sure you're doing the right thing the right way every time, when you need God, He'll be there. You don't have to beg, plead, cry, scream, holler in the altar, and roll on the floor. Just say, I need you, and He's right there. But that's consistency. That's called relationship. The second thing was, if you see something in the kingdom that needs to be done, chances are that's God showing you you should be doing it. Don't go tell me the bathroom needs to be painted. You should be going to Lowe's. Don't put more weight on the pastor's plate. So I'm sitting in this traffic jam, and how this works there is there's these young people from the age of about 13 to about 22, and they converge on the cars, hawking and selling whatever they can come up with. Plastic cups, car chargers, hankies, bottled water, because everybody's just stuck there. And by the time they get done with their day, which starts about 4 o'clock in the morning and ends about 11 o'clock at night, they've made about $1.50. And I was sitting in the back seat of that car. I said, you know, God, if somebody would just come here and take these young people off the street and give them just a little more education and some hope for the future, their lives could be turned around. And then all of a sudden my words came back to me. If somebody would. I didn't realize that I'm that somebody. And I feel like I'm supposed to tell somebody here tonight, that thing that has been eating inside of you, you are that somebody. You just have to say yes. So I come back and I tell my husband, I said, babe, I think God is moving us to West Africa. We're going to be moving. He said, I think that's great. You go do that. My solidifying, solid reason and final decision on it happened when I got a Facebook message. You know, you get that filtered section that you don't see on your phone, you have to go to, and they could sit there for a long time until you get to that. And I happened to go there, and there had been a message there from a young man, we're going to call him Samuel, been sitting there for several days. And I said, hi, this is Bishop Erik, what can I do for you? He said, please help me. And I said, well, what's going on, son? Come to find out, Samuel's about 28 years old. He was a worship pastor. He was Chris at a large Nigerian church in a large community in the state. Full-time, living far above everybody else's pay bracket, living quite the good life. He had helped grow this church in 4 years from 150 to 2,000 with the powerful anointed music that was taking place. And he said, but my pastor found out I'm gay. He announced it to the congregation, called my parents. Immediately I lost my job. The church paid for my house. I lost my accommodation. They kept everything in there that was mine except the clothes that I had. And I said, son, so what are you doing? How are you surviving? Family disowned him. See, the law in Nigeria and in many African nations is if you are found out to be part of the GLB community, it's 14 years imprisonment. If it's found out and you're out in the bush or the jungle justice takes over and we may never see you again because it's a shame to the family. So he had nobody to go to. And so he asked me, if I tell you you're going to be ashamed of me, you're not going to help me. I said, just tell me, what are you doing? How are you surviving? And after a long, long pause, Samuel responded back. He said, I had to leave that city and go to another, and the only thing I knew to do to put food in my belly was to sell myself on the streets. So we have an anointed worship pastor filled with God's Spirit, ministering to people, who is now a prostitute on the streets of the city. And I said, God, I told you yes, not on my watch. I wish I could tell you tonight that we found Samuel, we rescued him, we got him squared up. I've never heard from him again. I don't know if he made it, if he didn't make it, but I knew at that point our community there has no advocate. America has pulled out all financial aid because of their law. So we're not funneling any funds over there. So it has to be grassroots level. So I spoke with my husband and counseled with my friends and other ministry staff, and I said, we've got to go. Now, we've got churches over there, and I love the church thing, honey. I'm born in this. All I know is loving God and serving God. I'm a Pasadena boy from down south. That's where I'm born and raised. But if your gospel is only good in the pulpit, it's not good for anybody but you. If you come to church on Sunday and Wednesday and get a good warm fuzzy and then go home and do nothing, I wish you'd just stay home. Y'all can fix this when I leave. But I don't know how to be anything but real. We are called for a higher purpose. We who had nothing now have hope. That's why we called it the Hope Center. We've got the church thing. I can give you a great testimony that we've got 11 affirming churches in the country of Nigeria where anybody can walk in and they can know they're never going to hear hatred or condemnation or anything that's going to make them feel uncomfortable, and everybody will love them. They can't stand in the pulpit and say it's okay to be gay, because the church would be burned down the next day and the pastor would be arrested, because even the pastor, if he knows you are, is supposed to turn you in. Your own mother is supposed to turn you in. When these young people are found out, they have no resources. So what God has moved on our hearts to do, and we started doing this as our actual ministry, not just screaming and preaching and getting excited in a pulpit, but to actually bring hope to those who no longer have it. That's what we're supposed to do every day anyway, as children of God, is to make somebody else smile, to make someone else happy, to make someone else feel like there's a place they belong. Nobody is worthless. Everybody has value. Could you do this? Well, look at the person beside you and say, I'm worth something. Sometimes you need to look in the mirror and tell yourself, you're worth something. You matter to God. And what we've been able to do is, when we got over, the first thing that we needed was a place. The very first thing we had was a place to do this. And after much searching and them being crazy and trying to show us these things that I could never afford, Pastor Kelsey and I sold everything that we own. And you see a little trailer out in your parking lot. That's everything we have left in our belongings. We're hauling it down to my mom's to put it away. And it's sitting out in your parking lot. Thank you for the parking space. And we had to find some place we could bring these young people that was safe and secure, and where we could teach them something that could give them some sustainability beyond them feeling like they were worthless. We immediately they have tribal kings. We went to the ballet. I said, sir, we need help. And before my brain could catch up with my mouth, I had told him everything. 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 And he didn't hesitate. He said, come get in my car. I didn't know if he was ever going to see me again or what the deal was going to be. And he drove me to a building down the road that was about 80% completed. And he said, will that work for you? And I looked at him. I said, no. So you weren't listening either. I can't ever afford anything of that size or maintain it. He said, you could if it didn't cost you anything. And I burst into tears, like I'm about to do now. Because something happens when you quit trying to do it on yourself and talk to the king. You can take that in both levels, okay? And he allotted us this building that is under construction now. We hadn't used it for 10 years for no charge. A safe place for our young men and young women. It's going to take some time for it to be completed. So we've started teaching and housing young people in our homes. At any given night, there could be 13 sleeping on the tile floor. Young men and women who just don't have a place to call home. Nobody to care for them, parents that won't have anything to do with them, university fees that were pulled away, high school fees that they were pulled away because there is no free education. But God keeps motivating and keep pushing us forward. So Pastor Kelsey, being a techno geek, decided he's going to use his gifts. Because what is your gift? God asked of his own, what's in your hands? His is computers. So we set up a computer learning center. Since January, we've been able to graduate over 100 of these young people through the computer learning center, through a complete Microsoft Suites training course. And now they have something they can use. Now they can, we help them with resumes, and they can put that on their resume. We make contacts with some of the international companies that are there in that region that I said, please, but when you're ready to hire somebody, call the Hope Center. Don't say you have to hire them, but interview ours first, because we've trained them like the Americans would train them. And that gives them a little step up. So the chance of these young people getting this kind of opportunity is very slim to none. But God has opened so many amazing doors to be able to do this. One of our pastors from San Antonio made a trip over there. Again, what is in your hands? The scripture that I gave Brother Chris for what today, it's from Hosea 2:15. It says, there will I give her back her vineyards and make the valley of Achor a door of hope. There she will respond, and in the days of her youth, as in the days that she came up out of Egypt. So many of God's people have been left with nothing. But I'm hearing him in the Spirit say, I'm going to make a door of hope. So that those things that you lost in your youth, as you'll walk through this door of hope, you're going to find them rekindled back into your life. Hope being restored. And that's what we're all supposed to be here to do. That's what the Hope Center does. Pastor came over from San Antonio to spend a few weeks with us. I said, I'm really excited that you're coming, and I'm excited that you're a pastor, and I know you want to preach, and we'll give you all those opportunities. But what do you do? He said, well, I teach cosmetology at a school. I said, that's the skill I want. And we were able to take 33 of these young ladies and young men and put them through barber training and manicure and skincare over a very intensive course. And at the end of it, we gave free haircuts and manicures and HIV testing and health screenings to hundreds and hundreds of people that were in an impoverished shanty town that would have not otherwise been able to get these services given to them. And let them come and dance and sing. And if you were able to see some of the pictures that were up before the service, and you can check back at the booth afterwards, we'll have them running again. You can see some of the hope that is being restored. Now I'm finding out some of these that have now been trained in haircutting and clipper cuts, they're opening their own shops. Now they're not dependent upon what mom or daddy can do. Now they have their own door of hope. This is what we're all called to do. Most of you will never step foot out of your country. It's truth. But that's not your world. This is your world. This is our door of hope. We walk and talk every day with people that just are waiting for some hope. And you've already got yours. You're sitting here tonight in this amazing atmosphere, in this beautiful sanctuary with people who are overflowing with love. That's our door of hope. But elsewhere, there's those that don't have that. I'm thankful for a couple of countries that now have removed their anti-gay laws, and things are beginning to flow a little bit. But in the two countries where we're the most active, Nigeria and Uganda, it's not easy for our community. I ask you, please, when you pray, remember the Hope Center. We've got these young people that are living with us. You'll see some of the things that they've made that are out there. There are garments like this and necklaces out of precious, semi-precious stones and things that they've done because it's their economic stimulus. It's them. I don't need somebody to do this for me. I can do this. I can do this. And they are empowered to go forward. And now they have a church they can go to, and they can exercise their faith. We don't shut the doors to anybody. I don't care if you're Muslim or Buddhist or agnostic or Christian. I don't care. Because love of God goes to everybody without exclusion. And the doors of that Hope Center are open to whosoever will. Let them come. Because that is the door of hope. So let me challenge you today in as pleading way as I can. Please use that door of hope that you've got. Help somebody. whether it's in your local community, get on your knees and pray for somebody that doesn't have anybody over there that is holding them up. And you'll find out that it's not just you in this, that we are a global community and that the same pains that hurt us, and as I have to say this before I sit down, when it happened in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub, we were in Tampa and we drove down the very next day, and we're just a block away, as close as the FBI would get us. I got a message from our group over there, and they said, "Bishop, we just want you to know we're praying for you." And that hit me in such an astounding way. You have nothing. You have no freedom whatsoever, but you are there praying for us here. That's called one global family, one universal love. The door of hope will bring the victory and the power that we're all looking for. We all just want to be loved. We all just want to have hope. And let me challenge you today, when you leave this place tonight, remember that our community's arm stretches farther than just here. I had no intention of doing what we're doing like we're doing this. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I said, no, I'll go back and forth. I love going back and forth. We go 6 or 7 days with no power. We have had times when we had $5.15 in the bank account and had to feed 13, but somehow God always makes a way. I've never lived by faith like I'm living by faith now, but God is ever faithful. He will never let his children handle more than they're able to bear, because as long as we know we're leaning on him, we can handle anything. Amen. And we can get through everything we're going through. I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate you letting me bring this to you. And please, as you're praying, remember the Hope Center Nigeria. God bless you.